Hi guys, welcome back aboard good old Athena. This week we're not going to be working on the catamaran, we are going to start the 700-mile trip up to Oriental, North Carolina. This week's video is sponsored by Surfshark. Real quick, if you're not familiar, this is Athena. I spent 7 years refitting her and it's the boat we crossed the Atlantic aboard a couple of years back. We'll get back to why we're getting out of Dodge and what the plan is for the catamaran also. But yeah, let's just finish up getting the boat ready to go and then we can catch up once we've left the dock. Shore power is disconnected and all the lines are looped back to the boat. Our 1600 watt sliding solar array has been furled back in, so that's ready to go too. We filled up our 2 fuel tanks yesterday and also the jerry cans up on deck. And look who's back aboard the boat. Ava!
Hello. I'm just eating a banana and peanut butter.
Yesterday afternoon, we took care of one of the absolute crucial jobs to have decent fuel economy and decent speed on this trip. And that is to make sure the hull is clean, the rudder is clean, and that the prop is clean. Luckily, my friend Greg offered to lend a hand. And in fact, Greg has already scrubbed the entire hull a few months ago. I've just been so busy with the catamaran that I've completely neglected to mow our lawn. Greg is an absolutely fascinating guy with tons of stories, and if you're into treasure hunting, then I highly recommend you check out his channel, where he has done some metal detecting and where he's also getting a boat ready to do some treasure hunting off of the coast of Florida. Greg's YouTube channel is called Life's a Treasure. I'll leave a link for that down in the description, and thank you so much to Greg for all the help. Back to today. It was time for us to put our hull cleaning efforts to the test. With a hand from a couple of friendly club members, we untied the lines and slid out of the slip we've called home for the last 9 months, without hitting anything or anybody, I might add. We still got it! We decided to do a coastal jump the first day to avoid 1 lock and 4 or 5 opening bridges. Now, even though there wasn't a ton of wind, we still got a chance to unfurl the sails to just at least make sure that everything still works. It was a somewhat rocky and rolly day, and it felt like we were looking at NASA and SpaceX buildings all day heading north up the coast. As the sun was setting, we headed in through an inlet and found ourselves a nice, calm anchorage along the ICW.
It's really nice. We just got into the anchorage and we can finally relax. Oh my God, is that a shark? It's coming right at us. What should we do, Mads? Whew, it's the world's friendliest shark. It's a surf shark. Today's video is sponsored by the VPN provider, Surfshark. Pardon the very silly transition, but luckily we haven't seen any other sharks here on the ICW. Surfshark is a virtual private network, and there are many reasons to use a VPN. For instance, it makes using public Wi-Fi safer, and you can also keep up with your favorite streaming shows when you're on vacation or working abroad. As you know, I have been helping my sister out in London watching my niece, and we use Surfshark on a daily basis directly on our Apple TV to get my nieces and our favorite TV shows that are not available in the UK. Depending on what country you travel to, some TV shows might not be available, and in some cases, the entire platform might not be available. For instance, Max in the UK. And if you have a young child at home, you know how crucial it is to have access to their favorite TV show. Surfshark is fantastic for getting access to your favorite TV shows, but it could also be used for more serious purposes. For instance, when we were cruising in Europe and I needed to help my parents who were in the US with their health insurance. That website, like many other government and healthcare websites, are only available in the US. And the only way I could help my parents was to use Surfshark to virtually put my computer in the US. Go to surfshark.com/SalLife or use our code SalLife at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Thank you so much to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. And then you cut, you go,
We had a super nice, flat, calm night here at our little anchorage, but now it's almost time to get back underway.
Yeah, we had a nice night after a little bit of a rough start to yesterday. I think just it's safe to say that Mads and I don't quite have our sea legs back yet. And I'm finally getting around to putting the lines away because neither one of us were even up to the simple task of putting the lines in the aft locker. So, yeah, a little bit of a rough start.
Here aboard, Ava is well known as the crammer of things. She likes to just cram things in tight compartments.
I'll make a fit.
So today we're gonna be sticking with the ICW, and yeah, we're gonna see how far we can make it north. There is a couple of bridges that needs to open for us, and we've never tried that before, so that's gonna be exciting.
I would also just like to say goodbye to everybody because today I'm going to be eaten alive by all the no-see-ums.
There are a few no-see-ums. They seem pretty fierce here.
Yeah, I was so concerned about having sunscreen and worried about the sun. I didn't even think about having bug spray, and we left it all at the catamaran. So, yeah, and they attack me. They leave Mads alone.
I've got a few bites.
Okay. Okay, good. We've both been really excited to do the ICW, and we've studied up. We've tried to learn the etiquette the best we can. We are starting on a Saturday, though, which we heard is probably the busiest day. So, yeah, we're just curious to see what it's going to be like, how heavy the traffic's going to be. So, wish us luck. I'm trying to find some kind of seat for the helm because obviously we don't have one, and we're going to have really long days of hand steering. So, I'm going to go down below and see what I could find. Who wants to be a helm seat? So, Matt is remembering that we stacked the bean bags and put one of these chairs.
Yeah, I can't see anything for all the junk on the foredeck.
No. We forgot we had this cooler in the aft cabin. Thank you, Anthony. We need to get you your cooler back. Sorry about that. But that's gonna work perfect. And then I will be using the handy step stool to sit on and look forward. This is a great example of something we are really looking forward to on the catamaran, is having a helm station with a forward-facing seat that's comfortable and we have great visibility. Because that's something we've always said about Athena, is that we wish we could sit forward comfortably and see.
I mean, as you can sit here, but you're sitting so low you can't really see over the cabin top,
Yeah.
which then you kind of got to stand, and that's not that fun for a whole day.
And even you can stand and see. I cannot stand. I have to stand on the cockpit locker, and yeah, so it'll be nice on the catamaran. We just went under our first bridge.
Phew.
Yeah, it was a fixed bridge, of course, but still, it's always a little nerve-wracking.
And now we definitely know that the mast is less than 20 meters tall. If memory serves, it's like 17. So I was 99.9999% sure we're going to be okay. But now we know it's less than 20 meters.
All right, enough yammering on.
Definitely enough yammering on, yep.
All right, let's go look at some views.
Ava is well known for being my favorite short-ish fry, but with the help of a step stool and the ABYC standard wrapped in a towel, she can steer the boat quite comfortably. It was time for our very first opening bridge on the ICW. Luckily, we had a couple of boats in front of us, so we got to see how it was done in real life rather than just having read the instructions on the internet. It turns out it's super simple. You hail the bridge on their working channel, often that seems to be channel 9, then you request a bridge opening stating your vessel name and whether you're northbound or southbound. Easy peasy. The ICW is a really friendly place.
It's definitely more exciting than being offshore. Obviously, there's like a ton of things to look at. It's just like people watching at its finest, which I love. I got the binocs out, checking out, see what everybody's doing. But yeah, we're definitely on our toes.
By the end of the day, we were lucky enough to catch one, if not the last of the bridge openings in St. Augustine. This was a great way to end a long and exhausting day of puttering along. We headed straight for the first available anchorage to get some rest, or at least that was the plan. Dun dun dun. Good morning, guys. It is about 5 in the morning, and we've had a little bit of an incident. Last night we anchored in this spot that looked absolutely perfect. There was plenty of water on the church, and also when we came in there was plenty of water considering how much the water was going to drop during the night. And then the current turned and we ended up in a really shallow bit that wasn't on any of the charts. So we've spent the night kind of firmly planted in the mud. Athena's draft is 1.5 meters, and as you can see there it says 1.3, which is less than 1.5. This is what I was looking at last night when we came in. As you can see, there's plenty of water around us. We dropped a hook in about 4 meters of water, and there's nothing here to indicate that there should be any issues. But yeah, we got stuck in the mud. No doubt the astute viewer will have noticed all the little red warning exclamation dot thingies here in Navionics. Yeah, we did not see those because we were using Aquamaps, and on paper this area looked absolutely perfect. So lesson learned. Look at Navionics for little user-created warning doodads for shoaling, and yeah, just motor around, make sure there's plenty of water.
I think a reason why we didn't see the exclamation point is because we were really tired. This was probably the 4th anchorage we tried to get into. We had a really long day, and when we finally got here, we saw the big open space and we said, oh, let's go, and we didn't do as thorough of a check as we would have earlier in the day. Also, I think the main reason why we ran aground, and it's my fault, because earlier in the day, I thought for like a second, I thought of the saying, not if you run aground, but when you run aground. And I thought it for a second, and I was like, don't even think about that. And like, here we are. So I jinxed us. So sorry, man.
I firmly believe that we will eventually get out of here.
We won't be stranded in St. Augustine for the rest of our lives?
No, we still have another hour or so, and then we can try and sneak our way out of here. It is exactly 7 o'clock now, and we have 1.8 meters of water, so we have a little bit of water under the keel. Let's slowly go forward and see if we can unstick ourselves. Not to celebrate too early, but I think we have become unstuck.
Oh, ooh, good job.
Good job, you. And our big reward is going to be 10 hours of ICW cruising. But thankfully it's going to be overcast in the afternoon, so it should be nice and cool.
Anyways, upward and onward, we can check that off of our cruisers to-do list. Everyone said that the ICW will get you, and it got us, so.
Day 2.
Today's goal, other than not running aground again, is to get out of Florida, just across the border to a little anchorage called Cumberland Island. It looks really beautiful and scenic, so we're hoping we can hustle and get there. It's around 60 miles, and we did 60 miles yesterday, except we left quite a bit later. We left after 9, definitely, and it's still just past 7, so we should definitely be able to get there.
And jinx.
Oh, yes. I was going to say, and I just jinxed it.
The ICW has lots to offer, anything from giant warships to more dolphins than we've seen anywhere else in the world during our 10,000 miles aboard Athena. Personally, I love nature, and it doesn't have to be grand mountains and Instagram views. There is tremendous beauty in the marsh that surrounds the ICW. After yet another full day of rumbling along at 5.5 knots, we made it to our anchorage for the night, right across from this bit of scenic architecture. From what we read, it is a paper mill. And just like that, it is time for our third day here on the ICW. And today we have been rewarded with overcast, potentially slightly rainy conditions, which, to be honest, is going to be a really nice break from all the blistering sun. We spent the night out here in the middle of the marsh. It was a super calm night and we slept like babies. And also, on the plus side, we had this paper mill as a neighbor. As you can see, we are right here on the border between Florida and Georgia. So today we officially cross into Georgia. We're not going to make it all the way to Savannah today. That's going to be too far, but we should maybe make it a third to half of the way there. One of the things I find interesting about the ICW is that you see a little bit of everything. Anything from the aforementioned paper mill to commercial fishermen and to what quite possibly is the world's biggest birdhouse. Some might call this a navigational aid, but I'm pretty sure the birds disagree. Some might argue that we could have sailed in certain areas of the ICW rather than motoring. In our defense, this determined boat is the only boat we met that was actually tacking its way up the channel, and we are trying to get from A to B in a short-ish amount of time. It is day 2 in Georgia, and so far I can wholeheartedly say that the Georgia part of the ICW has been my favorite. It is narrow, it is shallow, it's really beautiful, and it seems remote. Like, we can see houses out in the distance, but just plowing through the windy bit of waterway through the marsh, it does seem remote, and that is freaking awesome. We're coming up on one of those narrow bits. We're the little triangle here, and the narrow bit is this stretch of water right here. Why does going through narrow bits make it more fun? Well, just it forces us to pay attention and just really be there, I guess. But also there's the tide to take into consideration, because there's like a 2-meter tidal range in a lot of these areas, and that for us is quite significant. Significant because if we punch into the next upcoming narrow bit here, as you can see, there's some places here where it says 1.8, 1.9, 1.7, stuff like that, and that's pretty close to our 1.1 meter draft. Not to jinx ourselves, but I think we're starting to get a pretty good hold of how to navigate the ICW, what apps to use and what to pay attention to and stuff like that. So hopefully we won't have any issues today. Right before getting to Savannah, we had to pass through the delightfully named Hell Gate. It is narrow, and according to the internet, the current can rip through here at 4 knots. We had timed it to go through about 2 hours after slack, and we saw no current going through the narrow channel. We have made it all the way to Isle of Hope near Savannah, and I think that is pretty close to the halfway point. It's taken us 6 days to get here, more or less exactly, so I think by the end of next week's video we should get to our final destination of Oriental, North Carolina. Of course, then we'll only have Athena in Oriental, so then we have to do the whole process over again for the catamaran. As you can see, that is quite a bit of effort. So why exactly are we doing all of this? So there's kind of like, let's say, three categories of why we're relocating to North Carolina. There's cost of living, temperature, and...
The vibes.
Exactly.
As the kids say.
So if we start with cost of living, right, overall it's going to be a lot cheaper for us to be in North Carolina.
Yeah. Especially where we were at in Florida.
Yeah.
And on the Space Coast, it was
for Athena,
very expensive.
It was $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
And up in North Carolina, it's a few $100s a month. So that's a major savings. And also, we have some viewers and friends up there where we can keep the catamaran in their yard until we hopefully find a piece of property that we can build a little workshop on and then move the catamaran there. So overall, it's going to be much cheaper for us to be in North Carolina.
The second reason is, I know Mads is very, very passionate about this, is the temperature, which I do understand. And it's not just about you being comfortable, it's about the amount of work that you're able to get done.
Yes, because to be frank, it's too hot for me in Florida. And I know, or we know, a lot of people are now going to say, oh, but it's also hot in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yes, for a few months, right? For a few months, I think it's actually a little bit hotter than Florida. But then the rest of the year, it's much more comfortable, at least for my preference.
Yeah. So it's like opposite. So you can, instead of in Florida, when you only have like a couple months of it being comfortable, in North Carolina, you only have a couple months of it being super uncomfortable.
Well,
yeah.
At least that's what it looks like on paper. And for the third and final category, which is named by Ava, vibes.
Vibes. I'm trying to reach a younger demographic.
Yeah. I don't know if that's our demographic, but,
No.
Yeah.
But vibes encompasses, I would say, like a few things. Mainly because when, the catamaran is going to take a few years to finish.
Yeah.
And as we were looking for places, that made us think about where we wanted to be long term. And we had looked around Florida, and Melbourne and Cape Canaveral, and just like while we were looking, it just never felt right. Like we weren't like very excited about being in that area.
No, and it's like when Ava says long term, right? It means also we would like to have like some kind of base, like to get back home to after we start sailing again. So it's long term. It's not just for the duration of the refit.
Exactly. And so we had been looking in Florida, and then when we were driving up and down the coast all those times when we were going back and forth from the boat show this year.
Freaking hurricanes.
And hurricanes, that's should have its own category. Well, never mind. Forget I said that. So when we were on our way back, the final time we were on our way back from the boat show, we decided to take it slow. And our friend Danny reached out to us, who lives in Oriental, and he wanted to have lunch with him and his boss Blair in Oriental, and we ended up staying in New Bern.
Yep, for 3 days.
For 3 days, and like as soon as we got to New Bern, we were like, oh my gosh, like it's so cute. Like it was just like the people were so friendly.
Yeah.
Like we were walking around town and people were saying hello and how you doing. And that was just like a completely different experience that we were having. So that was just very refreshing. And I think after those short 3 days, we were like,
yeah, we really fell in love with that area. And it's a lot of that is personal preference, right? I grew up out in the sticks, and we just, from the short time we spent there, we really like that area. So we really like the vibes.
See, you're getting it.
Of the place. But also the logistics are really good because our friend Blair has a yard there, Triton, which we can keep the catamaran there until we find some piece of property where we want to work on the catamaran. And also Blair is a boat hauler and Danny is a boat hauler, so they can move the catamaran for us, which is a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But then there's also
Marine Craft.
Yes.
Which is the North American hub for Antares, which is the current manufacturer of the boat we have.
Yep.
And I mean, they've already just been so helpful, Dave and Lisa. Like, I mean, you've already been ordering parts from them, and that's where there's a huge Antares community there, and the Antares community are just like the most helpful people I've ever met.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's specifically for marine crafters, I think more or less year round, there's, I don't know, 5 to 10 Antares boats there, which is really helpful for us because much of our boat is gutted and just removed, right?
Yeah.
So we can kind of sneak in there and look on other people's boats, see how stuff is routed, like plumbing and electrical, and maybe previous owners have done little modifications to improve the boats. We can kind of get inspiration for that, something like that. So there's a lot of upsides to us being close to marine craft. Hopefully that should answer all questions as to why we're going through all of this logistic moving about thing. But yeah, hopefully by the end of next week's video, we can show you guys a bit of Oriental. And that is going to be the end of this week's video. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video,
please remember to leave a like. See you. Hey.
And of course, before we forget, thank you so much to Surfshark for sponsoring this week's video.